Hi, welcome back to the Unemployed Film Snobs. I'm your host, Josh Mejia. These are my co-hosts,
Joshua Letona,
Brian Delgado.
And today we have our favorite franchises, what we don't like and what we do like about them, our guilty pleasures, and if we have time towards the end, our weekly watches. And I'll hand this off to Letona as we get to, driving.
Yeah, off to the races we are today. So our favorite franchises. This was all an idea thanks to our wonderful co-host back there, Brian, which we thought would be a good way to just get to know us a little bit better.
Yeah, this is more of like an episode for, something simple, and I believe like this is going to be the 5th episode now, so I figured we just talk about things that, that we like in terms of franchises. I feel like you could tell a lot by a person based on like their favorite franchises, so I figured this would be like a simple, easy episode to just kind of go over, and that way our audience can get to know us. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and start.
Yeah, look, I guess me starting just leads into the most basic, because I really thought about it, and I have one main answer, and I'm going to have one because I'm just going to use the platform to do it. But my favorite franchise is Star Wars. I don't think that comes to any of a surprise. Super basic choice. But no, for real, this is like long before the MCU or like any comic books or whatever. I was just a Star Wars kid. Mm-hmm. I grew up on the prequel trilogy. I saw at least episode 2 and 3 in theaters, growing up at least. So it has like a lot of nostalgia for me in the right places, sometimes in the wrong places, because as I've grown up, Star Wars has become a really complicated thing. And I just I don't know, if you go into my room, I have lightsabers from Galaxy's Edge, which is, from the Disneyland parks.
Yeah.
I read the books, I've read the comics, I'm very up to date with the current canon. This is a no joke for me, all in kind of franchise. So I know we're gonna get into a little bit of what we love and kind of hate about them, but I just thought that would serve as a good intro. Maybe we could go around after that.
Really?
So.
Okay, because I actually wanted to ask you genuinely some questions about Star Wars.
Oh, then yeah, let's go ahead.
Q&A with Letona.
Q&A.
Yeah, no, I'm being serious because you and I are basically the same age group, so I remember growing up as well, and Star Wars was, even before the MCU.
Hot.
I mean, the MCU was like a comic book. It was more of just the people who read comics, kind of like how people who just read anime, and then...
Right.
But the thing about Star Wars is that it was popular, but there came a point where it just stopped. The prequels came out, and then after that, people were longing for Star Wars to come back.
Right.
And I remember when the 2015 movie finally got released and the trailer came out, dude, I remember the hype behind that. So where were you when that got announced?
Dude, I mean, I was...
What year was that?
2015. It would have been December, so it would have been my freshman year in college. Yeah. So, I remember I had a little blog at the time, and I wrote a review for The Force Awakens, and I tried to
talk about a film snob.
A blog and from with squarespace.com. But yeah, no, I wrote a whole review for The Force Awakens, and I would probably go one number down. I think I gave it a 9, but I'd probably give it an 8 nowadays. Out of 10, or at least a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Just because at the time, I had full Star Wars fever. I was it's back. It's I was in the theater. I had never really had this experience until maybe I saw Avengers Endgame, but my heart was pounding, waiting for the Star Wars logo to just appear on screen.
Yeah.
I remember the energy in the theater was just feral. Everybody was just
That's such a word to describe it.
No, it was.
Seriously, though, that was like that.
Because the second the Lucasfilm thing came up quietly, and then a long time ago in the galaxy far, far away, and then the fanfare hit, the theater lost it. And I just hit pure euphoria. And I still really enjoy that movie. To this day.
How it went downhill from there.
So that's why I asked that, because this might be a long conversation, but How do you feel about the franchise now as a whole, especially during its given state? Like, I hear a lot of things, so I just wanted to know like what you think.
This will be the like TLDR version because I don't want to like make this a whole Star Wars episode. But basically, like, look, I really enjoy The Force Awakens. Rian Johnson, who I'm a big fan of, does The Last Jedi, and I walked out of that movie being like, I think this might be like one of the top 3 Star Wars movies of all time.
So if you don't like the Rian Johnson Star Wars movie, I don't think
not the show for you.
I don't think this guy's not the I don't think this is the guy for you.
This is not.
Yeah.
But I love that movie. I thought it was subversive. I thought it like challenged Star Wars and pushed it into new directions. And then
so even the Palpatine thing.
No, see that's a different thing. Now we're talking about J.J. Abrams coming back and like fumbling the ball. Like, because Episode 9 is definitely a low-tier Star Wars movie. I don't hate it like when I first watched it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely just like a down note on like that trilogy. And that's why, like, in its current state, I have really mixed feelings about it. Because it has moved on to TV mostly.
Yeah.
And I have a whole thing about, like, Dave Filoni kind of being the architect of Star Wars right now that it's not my favorite thing. I know that if there's any Star Wars people or heads watching, I'm sure that you guys love Dave Filoni. I remain skeptical on him. I just don't think he's ready to like take over the franchise in the way he's doing so right now, because he's just not telling a story that feels original from him. And I feel like he's replicating a lot of what George Lucas did. And that seems to be the problem Star Wars always gets into, is that when it tries to go for new places, there's always someone to be like, oh, well, I don't know how we felt about that. Let's try to bring it back to basics. So that's where I kind of remain mixed with it. And I know this kind of ended up leading into like our critiques and what we hate about it. And I can like, and we have a kind of like tropes that we hate about our franchise as well, or just in general. So I can get into a little bit more of that in a sec. But I would say that's it. Is like, I love this franchise and I think it has like a lot of really great storytelling, but just sloppy execution. I've now that I've grown up, I'm not a fan of the prequels. The most I'll defend is Episode 3. But if I have to sit through Episode 2 again, I swear to God. And yeah, I mean, I like the original trilogy. I think that's my favorite of the 3. And the sequel trilogy is a 2 out of 3 for me. 2 movies are good.
Yeah.
1 is borderline bad. So, but I'll pass it on. So, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So I don't know if it's like my favorite franchise. I have a couple ones that come into mind. Well, my number one, if I would say, is Alien, the Alien franchise. So Ridley Scott's original Alien film is always going to be one of my favorite films. So the atmosphere, the slow burn, better than a lot of people, especially fan favorites of the Alien franchise, like Aliens, which is James Cameron's version. I like that too. Something about Ridley Scott's original version is just something dear to my heart. And also, like I said, like we had our previous episode about video games, but Alien Isolation, which is like a follow-up after the original Alien, is also a great execution of a video game, video game story. But yeah, so there's that. There's also the Back to the Future franchise. So I feel like it's basic, but I feel like it's a great franchise, dude. It's one of those movies that I can literally just replay all the time, or even if you catch it like on cable, if you're just like scrolling through the channels and I see Back to the Future 2 on, I'm gonna go ahead and just like maybe do my laundry and watch it, and then realize that I'm not doing my laundry anymore because I'm so captivated by the story, so it feels like I'm rewatching it again or watching it for the first time, even though I already know what happens. But I don't know, great. I mean, maybe I have some issues with the third one, but it's still like one of my favorite franchises, so I feel like those two are kind of like my top franchises. There's also Pirates of the Caribbean. By the way, I was gonna ask, did you guys see that discourse about it was on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Some people were talking about how it was like a clip of Pirates of the Caribbean, like the ship scene, Like, and then like there was like that storm.
Well, there's a bunch of ship scenes.
You mean
true, okay? There's the scene with Will and
the other girl,
Keira Knightley, and they have a kiss.
Yeah.
It's in the final one at World's End.
Yes.
Yeah.
So somebody mentioned that they don't make movies like how they used to, because they used to feel like expensive, and it felt like.
It felt good.
It felt good,
The VFX felt good.
The effects were great. By the way, the effects on Pirates of the Caribbean still hold up.
Yeah.
For a franchise that was in the 2000s, it's great. Like, it's one of my favorite franchises to show off sometimes.
It's kind of sad to say, too, that, like, VFX from that franchise in 2000 still hold up better than most...
like MCU
stuff
like,
today.
Projects.
Yeah, but that's a good one. Yeah, no.
Real quick, I mean, you brought up Alien.
Yeah.
You know, you asked me about Star Wars. How do you feel about Alien nowadays? Because that is a franchise with a lot of mixed entries.
Yeah. Like, so there's like those prequels, Prometheus,
Alien Covenant.
So this is actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this is kind of like what that discussion that we wanted to talk about, kind of like a reboot. I know Fed Alvarez is making that.
He's working on one, yeah.
Yeah. And I hear stories about how even Ridley Scott enjoyed the hell out of the new Fed Alvarez Alien movie. Mm-hmm. I do think it needs like a reboot, it needs to be revitalized.
Are we talking like straight like from the beginning, like honestly, start over, or are we talking like the Halloween approach?
Honestly, if they start over, I wouldn't mind it. But also, if they do the Halloween approach, I wouldn't mind it either. I just think it needs to be in the right hands. That's it. I think
Fede is a good choice.
Yeah, Fede is. Yeah.
What is he? What has he done?
Evil Dead 2013.
Oh, okay.
Don't Breathe, right?
Don't Breathe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he do the second one? I never watched the second one.
I never watched the second one as well, but
I never watched.
I heard that. I just heard the premise of that, and I don't know if I want to watch it, but I don't think he did that. But anyway.
Yeah. Fede is good though.
No, that's actually I didn't think about that. Yeah, I think both the Alien franchise needs to be revitalized. Actually, a lot of my favorite franchises I feel like need to do that, minus Back to the Future, but it's just my opinion.
What do you think about the rumors that they were going to reboot Back to the Future?
There was rumors about that?
Yeah. Well, they come up every now and then. Every couple of years, they talk about it. But I believe
I don't think
Zemeckis is always like, nah. Like, his answer has always been like, don't do it. I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
This is kind of like, not off topic, but and it's not my favorite one, but what do you think of the new reboot of the Harry Potter franchise? That they're making into the TV show?
It's never been my favorite franchise, so I don't really care. That's personally me.
All I can say is it feels like confusing to want to reboot those movies when they feel so iconic already.
Yeah.
And like they didn't end that long ago. I know it's been like well over a decade, but like, I don't know, like with like again, we're like veering definitely off track, but like just as like a final note for this, like I'm confused why the decision isn't to do what like the Hogwarts Legacy game is doing, and not just tell like an original story set like hundreds of years before with like fresh new characters.
Yeah, I would love to see that, to be honest.
I feel like it writes itself. It's like a little like a set in a school. You could give a little mystery, whatever. I don't know what's up at Warner Brothers.
So I think my turn for
your favorite franchise.
Okay. So I know I mentioned a couple during the beginning, or like during the pre-meetings, but because I didn't think we could do like trilogies or anything. Because I mean, I don't really count trilogies
as a franchise.
But if we're considering them as franchises, then you're gonna think this is such a me thing to say. But one of my favorite franchises / trilogies is a foreign film.
Nice.
It's called Three Colors. It's blue, white, and red. It's by Krzysztof Kieslowski. He's I think Polish filmmaker, but it was a Polish / French film trilogy based off the French flag colors, I believe. But favorite trilogy, definitely just completely, like one of the reasons why it's my favorite, especially Blue, the first movie, is because going into filmmaking, it definitely made me reconsider what I thought could be possible with movie making and with making films, especially with because I always considered the visuals, the music, and the sound all kind of separate. You know, I know at the end they all come together to make a great piece of art, but I always considered them separate. But watching Blue and watching those movies made me really see how unified they can become, and how if you started off unified and not just these as these separate pieces, it's even more powerful. So that they highly recommend that trilogy if you're into foreign films. They're short too. I watched the whole thing in a day. So I think they're about like an hour 10, hour 20 max a piece. So it's like it's basically like you're watching. If you watch Oppenheimer, 3 hours.
There you go.
You'll finish
one Oppenheimer, one Colors trilogy.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my favorite trilogy. Some other picks would have to be like The Dark Knight. You know, I think that's a really all around favorite. You know, Batman superhero trilogy that's just well done by none other than Christopher Nolan. So
I will say I think Dark Knight is like a follow up for me.
Yeah, I would say that too. Yeah,
it's Nolan, so.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong with Nolan at this point.
Since you guys like toss in like your second and third choices, I'm just gonna throw in what was my second secret.
I wasn't asking.
Go for it.
Yeah. No, I was just curious because I thought we were gonna go one by one, but if we're gonna throw it all out there,
just throw it out there.
Yeah.
Why not?
So this is because like I know you guys make fun of me for this a lot.
I knew it.
And you know what I'm gonna pick? It's Dune.
Oh. I thought you were gonna say Evil Dead.
No, it's up there.
I thought you were gonna say MCU. They just
No, you know my stance on Dune over the MCU. I would trade the entirety of the MCU for like an entire set of Dune movies.
I haven't even watched Dune, and I would 100% support you on that. You know how I feel about
like Dune. I know I give you shit about it, but I like Dune. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get to see their first Dune in theaters. I just saw it at home.
It's just sand, dude.
But I watched it with headphones, so I could get a little more immersed. You know, I watched it with headphones on. But I liked it. You know, it was a great piece of filmmaking. The sound design was incredible. Oh my god, the sound design was beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, I guess this is like my thing, right? Is like, I feel like people watch Dune, and I understand why they find it boring. Because the book is very boring. And I love this book. Have you
read the book?
I read the book.
You read the book?
I read the book. I'm deep, okay?
Whoa, he's lost.
How many books are there?
He's lost.
There are a lot of books, but technically, like Dune, like the overall experience is like those first 2 books.
Yeah.
So you can do the original Dune, which is split into 2 parts for this current movies, and then there's Dune Messiah, which basically works as like the capper. So if all turns well box office wise, I get a trilogy.
Well, do you think that Denny will do a trilogy?
Denny wants to.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was shocked. I didn't realize. I did this research the other day that the first Dune made $405 million worldwide during the pandemic.
Well, that movie came out, what, 2021?
October 2021.
My boy just had to mention, hey, by the way, I just want to have a moment of silence right now because the movie would have came out a couple days ago this weekend, actually. So at the time of this recording, let's have a moment of silence for Josh Letona. Dune was supposed to come out this weekend.
I was supposed to win.
He was supposed to win. And I also was supposed to make fun of him even more, but it did it. Unfortunately not. So hopefully we'll be here by the time that it comes out, and we can. Hey, maybe we should even go see it all together.
100%.
Hey, if we're still doing this, yeah.
Regardless, we're gonna go do the double feature.
Oh my god,
double feature.
But yeah, no, I mean, look, I love Dune, and I think a lot of people treat it like it's like another basic franchise thing. And this is why I think it's like interesting to compare it to Star Wars, because it predates Star Wars by like a good 20-ish years.
You mean like in terms of the book, right?
The book, yeah. Okay. Because like it laid the foundation out for like all of sci-fi. Like if you read Dune, you could totally see where George Lucas got the influences for some of the stuff in Star Wars. And what I really like is that I think some people are watching Dune and thinking like, I guess this isn't really spoilers, it's just subtext.
Okay.
But they're watching Dune thinking Timothée Chalamet, Paul Atreides, is a hero. He's like another hero archetype. Mm-hmm. He's not. Dune is like a deconstruction of like the hero story, in that like Paul Atreides is like a person born into like power and is destined to become just another tyrant in the galaxy, no matter his intentions.
I like that.
You know, like there's whole chapters in Dune dedicated to understanding the science and religion of the planet, so you can like understand why like the Fremen, which are like the native people of the sand planet, are so.
So those are the ones that what's her name? The one from
Zendaya. Yeah, plays. Zendaya's people. Right. Like there's a whole dedication to understanding their religion and why they worship the spice and the worms, and like it becomes such like an interesting text of like its time and what the writer was trying to do with it, and like understand like if like the Fremen are kind of like a metaphor for like like Muslims or something. Okay. Like very like dedicated religion, and like the Atreides family, the Harkonnens are like just more imperialists coming in and taking what they think is theirs. So like I think there's more under that surface than people give it credit for.
Got it. Sounds like Game of Thrones without the incest.
Yeah, honestly, it really is. It is the predate to Game of Thrones. Like you will be surprised how much Dune has influenced so much.
Yeah.
And Dune has a very long and jagged history.
But guys,
in terms of movies.
Yes, it also has a long and jagged history, which is why we're thankful Denny's here now.
I know, but guys, you don't like your typical good versus evil storyline? Like, come on, I don't like that. I don't like complexity, okay? I just need to turn my brain off and I need to enjoy a movie. I don't have time for this crap, okay?
To love something is to also to hate it.
Yes.
Right? Like you can't truly love something unless you acknowledge like the faults of it. And I got into a little bit of my Star Wars stuff, so I'll let you guys kind of round that out before I get back to it.
Let me think. Well, for my Three Colors trilogy, there's not really much faults with it. I mean, it's a pretty short trilogy. I think what I hate the most is just that after he did that trilogy, the director was planning on making another trilogy about heaven, hell, and purgatory. Mm-hmm. And he had a script going. He literally just brought the same team over from that Three Colors trilogy onto this new one, and he died before he could make it happen. So I am very sad and hate that, because that could have been one hell of a movie trilogy.
Dang.
But yeah, I mean, there's not much I hate about.
Okay, what about Dark Knight though?
Dark Knight.
You gotta have something about Dark Knight, no?
Yeah, get back to me on that. Let me think on that. Okay. What are yours? What are your little icks about yours franchise?
So, especially with Alien, I feel like the lore is just so convoluted. It's so convoluted. I don't think it needs to be. And I feel like because of that, they try to shove so much into that. You can't turn on one of those movies, especially the prequels, without understanding what's going on. And I think that's also kind of where the franchise just kind of took a nosedive as well. So, I mean, because if you don't know a certain thing beforehand, I mean, you're gonna get lost, and you're not really gonna understand what's going on. And I feel like that's happening a lot nowadays, especially with other franchises too. You have to watch a certain project in order for you to understand what is going to go on into the current or future project. And so I think Fede Alvarez's Alien is going to fix that. I have high hopes for that. I don't know. You know what else though? There's something else as well. So for related, it's a follow-up for me as well. I know we were supposed to be done naming franchises, but The Purge is also one of my favorite franchises. But it's one of those where I feel like that also needs to be rebooted. I feel like the execution could be a lot better. The idea is really awesome. I just feel like it should be translated differently. Sorry, I just wanted to mention that as well. I know I didn't mention that beforehand, but I just wanted to mention that franchise specifically. Go ahead.
Oh, for me, back to The Dark Knight. I liked it overall. I think the one thing I would say about it, and I think I mentioned this not even in pre-meetings, just in our general discussions about film, is that I really want, I know you kind of showed me a couple of examples through Batman films, but I really want a Batman film to have a gritty fighting style, kind of like Daredevil or The Punisher. Because I feel like he knows basically almost all the martial arts in existence, right? But I feel like when we see him in the movies, when we see him fight, he's always just such a best word to describe is a bulky fighter. He uses his attacking gadgets, but he kind of just throws these powerhouse punches. Where in the animation or the comics, right? We see him actually doing a bunch of the martial arts techniques rather than just these bulky throwdowns and stuff. Yeah. So I really feel that's one thing I wish they could have done a little more with with Bale's Batman, especially because they did kind of keep him grounded. I think we got a taste of it in the Batman from Matt Reeves. Well, like when,
I was gonna say even more so. Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate because he never got to have his own movie, but the Ben Affleck Batman, he does get like a pretty stellar, like using different kind of like martial arts styles in that warehouse scene in Batman v Superman. But that's the only ever like scene you get that. So I hear you for sure.
Yeah, because I feel like that was a taste of like you know, like a Daredevil mixed with the Punisher type of fighting thing. Because I love those, and like those, like, you know, like, because Batman is just a human. That's why. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I get he has a gadget and stuff. I really want him to. Hopefully, maybe in the next Pattinson movie, they do more of like martial arts stuff. The closest to in the Dark Knight trilogy that we get to kind of like that warehouse scene is when when Christian Bale's Batman is fighting Bane. I think that's like the closest we kind of get to like him using different styles of martial arts. Yeah.
I think like it always sucks because it's like probably the best Batman scene ever made, but like it's not even in anything. It's just promotional material. I don't know if you remember that trailer they put out for Batman Arkham Origins, where he fights Deathstroke. You ever see this like trailer? No. They have one of the cleanest fights of just pure hand-to-hand combat you'll ever see, but it's like a promo thing for a video game.
Oh wow!
And it's like you never would have guessed. Like it's probably the best Batman fight sequence that exists.
That sucks, man. Like,
well, like something like that, and then like with the new Titans, I know there's a little more controversial opinions about that, but there's a lot of pretty good fight scenes in it, especially with Dick Grayson's Robin / Nightwing. So like I feel like they really I don't know. I really want something like really just grounded, less like bulky takedowns and more like. You know, I mean, there is some boxing elements too in it. Yeah. But I don't know, just more like, I guess the best way to describe it is more like the Daredevil / Punisher stuff. Yeah. So.
Because I think the fun of the Daredevil fights is like, you know, he's like, they're dealing real blows, and the longer the fight goes on, the more tired everybody seems.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too is that like you see him get like the bad guys or like enemies. They kind of get an upper hand sometimes over him, and then he has to kind of come back. And I'm like, I feel like they should do that with Batman too, because Batman is just like them, you know, he's just a human.
Yeah, and it'll help differentiate the fact that like Batman like can't win every fight. Yeah. It's the classic joke of Batman.
I was just gonna say maybe it's like a direction thing. Like maybe the direction of the movie is supposed to make Batman seem like he's not Spider-Man, where he's able to have all these powers. I mean, I don't know. I'm not.
I hear you though. Like with that trilogy, the actual action sequences for like that are more hand to hand is like not Nolan's like strong suit.
Yeah.
But I feel like there will also be an argument for it though. Like I feel like there's some people out there that would prefer that direction as well.
That's true.
Well, because I mean, if you think about it too, like some of the fight scenes in Inception. Kind of are similar to those fight scenes in Batman.
Yeah.
Because it's like they're kind of just more grappling and like tossing and like maybe some punches here and there. But I think what you said is probably right. Like Nolan's not the greatest with fight scenes. So.
Yeah. He's gotten better at it though. Like Tenet, I think he like crafts much better action sequences. But again, they're not like focused on like total hand-to-hand combat outside of
that beginning opera sequence.
The opera sequence is great. And when they get to the airport and he has to fight that person, the inverted person, is actually a really well choreographed fight scene. So he's gotten better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a huge...
I really wonder what it is about Nolan's direction then. With fight scenes.
But yeah,
I never thought about it that way until now. Now that you guys are piecing it all together.
You know what? Like it's just one of these ones where like. When you read enough and you start like seeing what other people pick out, like you're like, oh, all right. And I think that's with any director, right? Not every director has like a great strong suit.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
so I guess we found something that Nolan's not perfect.
Nolan's not perfect. Well, no, but he tells really well stories.
No, it was. I mean, overall, that was my only quip. Was just I kind of wanted a little more like grounded fight scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess...
Especially for a Dark Knight, which already feels grounded.
Yeah.
You know, it makes sense.
Especially with the Joker, I mean...
Ah, man. Heath Ledger.
I kind of wish there was a little better fight scene with Batman and the Joker, but I think the one that they did made sense, because the Joker's not a fighter, you know? He used the dogs and everything, so...
Yeah. I think it's fine.
Yeah. continue on.
Yeah, no, just I guess I can round out here. Back to Star Wars. This is like, I guess I was talking about a little bit in that, like, with Dave Filoni running the ship right now, you know, I know Kathleen Kennedy is like the head of Lucasfilm, but it feels like Dave Filoni is like really in charge of it right now, since they're doing all these like TV shows that are interconnected. And I think my problem with it right now is that George Lucas had this philosophy that Star Wars kind of rhymes. Like, things will always kind of feel familiar, that will always, and that's kind of like, I like it because it's poetic, and it you know, historically speaking, like in actual history, that happens. You see things repeat themselves a lot.
History repeats itself.
And I didn't like mind it for The Force Awakens that it kind of felt like a retread of Episode 4.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways, it was what we needed at the time. Maybe it's not the movie we needed, like, you know, like that was going to age super well, but like it was a perfect return to Star Wars for people who had never seen Star Wars. And the box office tells us that.
Yeah.
Well, I remember one of my friends who watched it said that they were kind of tired of like the same stuff happening over and over again. Like, I get history repeats itself, but I think because, you know, history repeats itself, but I think it's more of like they don't really show the change that happened between movies too much. They just kind of jump in to this new empire. Era of,
and that's like the weird thing about the Filoni TV is it's all retroactively, like, you know, showing what's happened.
Moments, yeah.
And this is kind of like what I'm like getting at is like Star Wars always kinds of seem to be about someone is looking for a long lost Jedi. Someone has a map to somebody else.
It's a trope.
It's the tropes.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's like I kind of like got upset with the Ahsoka TV series because it's Ahsoka who is trying to like train a younger Jedi who's like spunky and kind of headstrong while she's following a map to like an ancient evil. And it's like, I've seen like this has all been here before.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's kind of frustrating to watch over and over, and I'm like begging, you know, like I think I've told you guys, like in just conversations we've had outside of the show, like Andor felt like a rush of like adrenaline because it literally did none of that. It just felt like a really good spy thriller, just so happened to be set in the world of Star Wars. And that's what I really just wanted to do more of. I want Star Wars to spread out and try new things. I really hate that the reaction to The Last Jedi has like turned Star Wars into like more of a safe space.
Playing it safe.
It really is, because it's like I can already anticipate where the stories are gonna go. I just have so many questions now. It's just about like, is this what Star Wars is now? I want it to be more Last Jedi. I want it to be more Andor.
For Galleria?
Yes.
Yeah, right here.
I want it to be more of those things, and it's just not. And it's frustrating as a fan, you know, like as someone who really loves it. And I love a lot of these stories. And that's like the other thing is like, as someone who's like a big fan, like I'm like reaching out and looking for like better stories in the ancillary material. Like all the books that are set in like a totally different era, like thousands of years prior, is like way more interesting than what's maybe going on TV right now. So I don't know, that's kind of my gripes with it. That's where I feel like I'm just frustrated with Star Wars as like a thing. And I say this as a fan who loves it, but as I said, to love it
is to also
hate it. So
oh man.
I hope that gave a good like introspection to some of our psychology a little bit. I do have an idea for a kind of similar episode down the line, but I guess I can kind of move us into our next segment, which was our, you know, what is our guilty pleasures, right? I think if not only what's our favorite franchise, but what's like and I kind of set some parameters, right? Had to be a movie that was like basically has a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes, but that you love. I think those two things are like just the parameters of which.
Okay, it has to be low on the Rotten Score tomato meter. Again, it has to be.
At least something that like generally people don't like, right? I think like that's just the way we should approach it, because then that makes like more sense as to why it's a guilty pleasure.
Doesn't have to be a franchise. Right?
Doesn't have to be a franchise. Just a guilty pleasure that you have. If it is a franchise, feel free.
I would say one of my guilty pleasures would be the Santa Claus.
The Santa Claus movies with Tim Allen.
Yeah.
Are you caught up with like the TV show as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a new season coming out too. So.
Explain why. Why the Santa Claus?
I don't know. It's just a fun movie to watch. You know, I think the third one's a little stretching much, but other than that, I mean, I don't know. It's just fun just to put on. Kind of like what Brian said about Back to the Future. Not comparing it to Back to the Future, but it's something to put on. You know, just watch while you're doing other stuff or shut off your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking Elf.
Elf. I mean, that's typically wildly regarded as like
I know.
positive. Here, I'll let you think. I'll go with mine.
All right.
All right. So this is one that I love showing you guys things for the first time. So my pick is going to be Tron Legacy. A movie that is typically regarded as either mostly just fine or bad. I think a lot of people try to just like pan it, and you know, like you guys like watched it really for the first time. Really, right? Because for my birthday, I took them to a 3D screening at the Academy Museum.
That was cool.
And it was part of the like a 10th anniversary of the film, or no longer, I think. Longer.
Yeah, I think even one of the writers was there.
Yeah, one of the writers was there. And I don't know. This is a movie that when I watched it when it came out, I was so pleasantly surprised that by the time we got to the third act, someone had hit the fire alarm. And I didn't get to see the last third of it.
My God, dude.
That was crazy, right? And but I was so into this movie, and I think I was just at the right age. And so like for years, I've been like a good defender of it. And I don't mean this as like people who love it nowadays and they're like, I love that Tron sound or the Daft Punk soundtrack, which is admittedly the best thing about the movie. But like I actually do enjoy it for its characters. I actually kind of like the story as like kind of clunky or by the numbers as it can be. I think it's like a kind of like almost ahead of its time like movie, especially from Disney. And I think I asked you guys when we watched it, I was like, would you believe this was a Disney movie, you know, had you not known like it was produced by them?
No, I forget that it was produced by Disney. So, but you know, it's also the thing about Tron is that watching it for the first time in that theater, 3D, I think it was like the best experience you can have watching that movie, because I feel like if you were to watch it just at home, if I was to just put it on, I just don't think it would hit the same.
Yeah, that's fair. I did show it to my partner, and she even said, was like, damn, I think I would enjoy this movie more if I got the 3D. And you could tell the movie is out. It's shot in 3D.
Yeah, and that was also in 2010 when like 3D was really becoming a thing. Like it was 3D was everywhere, and it wasn't. Some projects didn't do it really well. It was really gimmicky, but I think Tron holds up still. You know, minus some dated things, but you know it's fine.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much my guilty pleasure. Bless
you.
Gracias.
That's pretty much my guilty pleasure. I really love that movie, and I've grown to appreciate it more and more. I see it. I watched the animated series that they made for it. That's like a prequel.
What was that? Disney XD?
It was Disney XD, and I was like genuinely shocked because I watched that show shortly after Andor, and I was like, why is there so many like strange one-off Disney shows that are so anti-capitalist or like at least anti-imperialist?
Especially with Disney.
But I guess I can toss back.
Yeah, you know, I was. So I think my guilty pleasures, I would say, would be. It's kind of like a mix-up. I would say it's between Hills Have Eyes and Wrong Turn. Both of those are kind of similar premises. So again, maybe I'm just morbid, but it's just like the fact that it's like a bunch of kills. It's like slasher. It's like it could be like Freddy and like Jason, Friday the 13th, but I think this is more like gruesome, kind of like Terrifier, which is also a great option, or great option.
If you know this guy, he loves gore. I
love gore. So the thing about Wrong Turn is that I think 1 and 2 was in theaters, and then after that, they made so many movies. This was all during the 2000s, so at some point, if you know the 2000s, a lot of those movies just went straight to DVD. So nothing wrong with that. Obviously, there's some hidden gems, but the thing about those movies is that it became more about the gore rather than like the storyline. So if you go in watching it expecting some awesome gory kills, it's a guilty pleasure. That's why it's mine. But if you're expecting like an amazing storyline, you're not really gonna get that. Same thing with Hills Have Eyes. But yeah, I would say that would be my guilty pleasure.
Cool. And then to kind of start wrapping up into our last little tiny segment, we'll try to make this a little fast. Our weekly watches. I'll go first. My weekly watch this week was 2 movies actually. It was X and Prill. However, I did rewatch them, so they're just rewatched. I liked them both. You know, it was great on the second watch. Of course, I liked them. You know, I did see them in theaters, thankfully. Different experience in theaters, you know, with other people. But watching on my own, you know, I was able to more analyze it a bit more. You know, kind of like take it in a little bit better, I guess, because it was already in my head, so I already knew what to expect. But you know, I picked out some more details in there. And Mia Goth is just such a great actress.
Mia Goth, don't get me started.
Just great directing, overall great. You know, I love how like the prequel / sequel kind of acts as both, you know, kind of furthers the story, but yet also kind of gives us a little more backstory as to everything. Yeah. Because if you've seen X, it kind of just jumps in, you know, just jumps into it, which I love. I love those little slice of life stories where it just jumps into it. But yeah, that was my weekly watch this week. Well, I think I'll toss it to you, Letona.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to time me for this one. I'll tell you when, because I was busy
timing
this
on
week.
this. Timing right here. There we go.
I was busy this week, right? I watched The Killer, Skinamarink, and Priscilla, right? So,
very different movies.
Very different movies. But I got it all done this week. I just had a lot of time. So go ahead. Give me 90 seconds, all right?
90 seconds.
Tell me every time we hit 30, and then we'll go from there, all right? So The Killer, all right, let me put it this way. David Fincher never misses. He's back again. More back to basics. It fits right in between like Fight Club and Seven. That kind of era of filmmaking he was kind of do. Kind of has that feel of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And it's great. It's like kind of the anti-John Wick. It makes you really consider and care about, like, you know, who's on the other end of a gun. Yeah. And I just think like Michael Fassbender is just doing so much. He's so good with what he's given in this movie. So David Fincher, just another classic. Is that 30?
Yeah.
Okay, Skinamarink. All right. So Skinamarink, again, this was one you guys have been trying to get me to watch for quite a while, and I finally got to watch it the other night with a friend. Yes, this movie is staring at a lot of hallways, staring at a lot of like corners, a lot of nothing. But in the same breath, it is one of the most unsettling movies I've ever seen.
It's one of those movies that you have to really pay attention to in order to get the story and get like the whole just atmosphere. Because I feel like it's not even like a story per se. It's more of an atmosphere story. Like it gives it off in the unsettling vibes you just said.
Yeah, and just the ending alone, like there is something that happens that's like reminiscent of a magic trick that literally has now haunted my brain. This movie's great, and I think maybe my favorite horror movie.
And can be found on Shudder and Hulu, as in Brian's picks, I think.
Yeah. I think it's my favorite horror movie of the year. I think. And lastly, I saw Priscilla. Sofia Coppola is back again. She does it. Kaylee Spaney, who I believe is the actress's name, is so good in the role. And literally, I just really want to talk about the fact that like she does so much acting with her eyes, and I don't think a lot of good actors do that. Even though they're like doing a lot of really great stuff with their voice or their like body performance, the eyes really do tell a lot. And I don't know what Sophia and Kaylee have done to like really find the character Priscilla, but they did it, and this movie is fantastic.
I haven't seen it yet, but I would say, you know, the whole acting with the eyes, it's such a little detail that just goes such a long way, especially in a visual format like movies, like film. Yeah. Just like there's so much you can do with that. You like, you know, like eyes are the windows to the soul, right? You know, like in Scarface, you know, the eyes never lie.
And Jacob Elordi as Elvis. I know there was someone else who played Elvis last year, but I personally prefer this interpretation.
Damn.
Oh wow!
I personally prefer it.
After all the effort Austin Butler put in.
After the deep dive he did.
Yeah.
But where am I?
You just made it. Maybe a little 10 seconds, but I give it to you.
I gotta reclaim my time.
Yeah.
So I watched When Evil Lurks, the 2023 film. It came out just like a week or two ago now. It's on Shudder. It's an Argentinian horror movie. Honestly, if you're familiar with Argentinian films, like horror films, they don't hold back, but you could say that with about pretty much anything foreign horror related. Especially the French horror. Like, there's something wrong with French horror filmmakers, but I love it though. But yeah, it's a great horror movie. I think it's probably one of my favorite horror movies of 2023. So that's just something to keep in mind of. only because it's so psychological as well. Because I'm still thinking about it now, and I think it's still fucking with me. And there's a specific scene with a dog, and if you already seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about in terms of the dog scene. But I saw a dog the next day, and I kept thinking about that scene. So check it out. And then there was another one, not as great. It's about like I forgot the name of the movie. It's on Shudder as well, but it's about like a girl that goes into a gas station and she's getting sniped at. And
Shudder, sponsor us.
Yeah, Shudder, sponsor us. But there's something else that you guys did not mention though, and I got these two to finally watch Hell House, which is also one of my favorite found footage movies.
We had a movie night on Discord.
Yes, like a couple days ago. Just real quick, what did you guys think about it? You guys forgot to mention that.
Sorry, yeah, no, I really did like this movie, and I'm not saying this because you're here. I genuinely really like this movie, and honestly, I'll just say like what I really forgot that found footage is really good at doing, since I comboed Skinamarink and then Hell House pretty much like night after 2 nights back to back, was that I love the sense of like feeling I've lost control of like the movie. Like it feels like someone else's point of view.
Yeah.
No, I mean it literally is.
Yeah, well, because it's more of it's literally a first-person point of view, rather than typical movies are like a third or kind of like more of like a narrator point of view.
Right.
Yeah. So I do agree. I think it was unsettling. We were just kind of along, like we were just strapped in and along for the ride. Like we couldn't really, like it doesn't. I don't feel like it makes sense, but I love the way you put it. Like we lose control.
Yeah. There's a better way to phrase it for sure.
And also like something happened. Because that's literally how it starts off with. It's like a mockumentary. There was an incident that happened. What happened? And then the fact that you're seeing that stuff and the footage itself, like things ended up like leading up to it, were creepy, and you're just wondering to yourself, how do these guys like manage to just stay the entire time? Which I feel like a lot of horror movies don't do, or they do like a bad job of. This one did a pretty decent job explaining why they stayed along. There's some did you guys get creeped out, by the way? Like
especially with the when one of the guys wakes up. Spoiler alert, maybe when one of the guys wakes up and he walks out because he hears a noise and the clown's just right down the stairs. His reaction to it.
There's also a piece of trivia. Do you guys remember the strobe, like when they were trying out the strobers?
Yeah.
And then so that's like kind of like a creepy like moment there, like where like the guy's even like Tony, how many freaks do we have? And, you're not sure what is which. That moment when he realized that there was something in there, like this is just a trivia
that wasn't supposed to be there.
That wasn't supposed to be there. That moment where he's like, Tony, let me out, Tony, and then he jumps over like the bar side and he throws up. The actor actually threw up, and when they were actually filming that. So
I guess I gotta say, and then we can pretty much wrap up after this. But I think what really helps that movie is that the performances genuinely feel in line with like pretty realistic.
It felt like you were hanging out with like these
friends, and that like the main person, that you kind of trusted them. All right, things are okay, things are fine. Like you kind of had that inkling, but then you put it away just because you worked with them or you know them for so long that you trust them. But then kind of like shit went
sideways.
I think the biggest thing I like about it too, especially with found footage films that I've seen, is that a lot of them kind of stretch out a little bit too much, or like the sequences carry on a bit much, but I feel like the beats and the sequences in this one and Hell House ended exactly where they needed to go. Or like they transitioned perfectly at the right time to just keep the flow going, keep the unsettledness going. They didn't hold too long, or they didn't like take away from anything. So I think that was probably the biggest takeaway for me.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's been our show. Unemployed Film Snobs. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for the support. And if you watch the other episodes, just thank you in general. We really appreciate the views, comments, anything, all the engagement we love. Thank you for that. Be sure to follow us on all social media and podcast at Unemployed Film Snobs. So Apple, Spotify podcast, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We're on all of that. Good stuff.
Comment, and subscribe as well.
Put a 5-star review, please. We really appreciate those of you that have. So if you have a moment, give us 5 stars. Tell us what you like about the show.
And this has been our half the season so far. We got 5 more episodes to go. Next episode's going to be something very special, very different. Not going to release just what. You just have to tune in and find out. But yeah, thank you again. I've been your host, Joshua Mejia. These have been my co-hosts,
Joshua Letona.
Brian Delgado.
We've been the Unemployed Film Snobs, and thank you again. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.